everyone. So anyone who's interested would like to come up and stand with us at the podium, please come on up. You're welcome. Yeah, thank you. All right, we have 2 seconds.
I'm always standing next to him. That's Mr. Blumenthal. That's my guy. Senator Blumenthal.
Being a part of this for everybody. You guys.
Congresswoman Hayes is just walking in the building, so we'll just give her a couple of minutes.
And how about Himes?
I do not know where Congressman Himes is, so
Okay.
hopefully he'll come and maybe we'll just slot him in.
Should we wait for Hayes?
I think we should wait for Hayes if that's okay.
Himes is not here yet.
Not here yet.
So I'll go to Sam if he's not here. Okay.
Exactly. Perfect. It's all right. We'll give the Congresswoman just a couple of minutes and then we can get rolling.
She's here.
She's here. Okay. Okay, right behind. That's fine.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. And most especially, thank you to the heroes who are with us, survivors, victims, to 2 of my House colleagues, 3 of my House colleagues now, Jim Himes and Rosa DeLauro, Johanna Hayes, and of course, my great friend, partner in this effort, Chris Murphy, who has just been a real champion. Thank you, Chris, for all you've done. You know, I think many of us who were at the vigil last night feel drained, moved. Many of us who have seen the reports of what happened yesterday in Nevada moved again. But I just have a very simple message to everybody here, all the heroes who are watching, those survivors who won't give up, won't go away, won't abandon this effort. You are making a difference. You are making a difference. Never doubt it. The Bipartisan Safer Communities Act is because of you. The progress that we will make, I have no doubt we're going to make progress over the time to come, is because of you. Your courage, your strength are what moves this Congress. Your voices and faces make a difference. And it isn't just the victims of the mass shootings, but every day, 120 people every day die in America because of gun violence. 200 are injured every day. And they are in Hartford and New Haven, in cities, drive-by shootings, and the shootings in homes, like Ethan Song, who are simply victims and survivors. Sam Saylor, who lost a son, Shane Oliver, and then his daughter, Shane's daughter and Sam's granddaughter, Secret Pierce, 12 years old. That kind of loss is repeated every day in America, unconscionably, unnecessarily. It is not the result of government policy. It is the absence of action to stop gun violence. And we can do it. We can stop gun violence. Ethan's Law with safe storage, background checks, and an assault weapon ban. Those 3 measures we put on the floor of the House yesterday. We asked for consent to move forward, and Republicans blocked it. So I'm going to turn to Chris Murphy now because we have a number of speakers. We want to give them the opportunity to move forward. But we are committed to pursue stopping gun violence in America, banning ghost guns, closing the background check loopholes, eliminating the immunity that gun manufacturers have through PLACA, banning assault weapons, and high-capacity magazines, and the devices that turn firearms into semi-automatic or automatic weapons and do additional destruction. These measures are common sense. and the failure to adopt them makes Congress complicit. So I know that Senator Murphy and I in the Senate and our congressmen who are here in the House are going to continue to work and fight for this effort. We don't have a choice. This is a moral imperative, not just a political obligation. It is a moral duty for this country to stop gun violence. Chris?
Thank you very much, Dick. Thanks to all of our friends and organizers who have brought us here today. Last night was indeed moving, a difficult night, but a very important night, a night when we pay honor to both the victims, but also to survivors, to family members and friends who are still with us today. I maybe say a version of this every single year, but it bears repeating. I just cannot understand the kind of energy, the kind of courage that it takes to both be dealing with a grief that I cannot understand and at the same time decide to speak truth to power, decide to come all the way down here to Washington, D.C. And tell your story and command that things change. The reality is that you do move mountains when you choose to speak up. I wish this weren't the case, but our colleagues pay a little bit more attention when they are listening to the personal stories of what people have gone through. And it is exhausting. It must be impossible to do this over and over again, but you do. And the cumulative impact of all of that is that the politics have fundamentally changed over the course of the last 10 years. No, we have not passed a universal background checks bill. No, we still need to pass an assault weapons ban. But we are finally at this critical moment where the anti-gun violence movement has more power than the gun lobby, where we win more frequently than they stop us from winning. And the proof is in the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the most significant piece of anti-gun violence legislation in 30 years, opposed vehemently by the NRA, by all the other Second Amendment groups, and it still passed. The proof is in the results of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Yes, the mass shootings have not abated, but gun violence in America's cities is down 12% since we passed that law, proving this idea that if you change the laws of the nation, you save lives, that if you continue to change the laws of the nation, you save even more lives. None of this is theoretical any longer. None of this is a vision. We have more power than they have now. We have crossed the Rubicon where we can consistently win, but only if we keep it up, only if we decide to continue to show up and organize and raise our voices and accept the fact that when you are part of a great social change movement, and this is one of those great social change movements, right? We are seeking to cure a fundamental injustice in this country, the injustice of kids and families waking up every single day, especially in the most violent neighborhoods, and fearing for their life every moment they walk outside the door. This is a great social change movement, and I wish they succeeded in a year or two, but they don't. They take longer, and they take commitment, and they take perseverance, and that's what this event every single year is all about, renewing that faith and commitment, but now, a year after the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, with proof of concept. If you wondered whether we could win, well, now you know we can win. If you wondered whether the laws that we were asking for would save lives, well, you don't need to wonder any longer. And so I show up here today just as committed as I was 10 years ago when we first had that vigil, but more confident than ever that our cause is righteous and our cause will win. And I'm glad to be able to do this with a great group of House members from Connecticut. Obviously, everybody feels this, but we feel this on behalf of the families from Hartford and Bridgeport and New Haven, on behalf of the Songs, on behalf of the families in Newtown, as deeply or deeply than most. Let me introduce my colleague, Congressman Jim Himes.
Thank you, Senator Murphy, and most importantly, thank you to all of you who make this trek year in and year out to do what has to be done. When I was making the trek this morning, I was sort of thinking to myself, this is the worst and the best of the get-togethers that we do, and it's the worst because you can't hear a single one of these stories represented by the photographs of the victims up here without being horrified, immobilized, enraged. You can't reflect on what happened at Sandy Hook just 10 miles north of my district 11 years ago without being enraged. Last night I went to talk to Dina Titus, my friend of now some 15 years. She represents Las Vegas, and I went to talk to her, and I saw that she was crumpled into a seat on the floor of the House of Representatives because there'd just been a mass shooting a few hours earlier in Las Vegas that took the lives of multiple people. So you just can't do that without being, as the senator said, shocked and immobilized. But it's the best meeting because you're not immobilized. You are mobilized in the face of, as a father of 2 daughters, unimaginable to me grief. And this used to be tough because I really thought for a decade that we couldn't make progress on this at the federal level. Yeah, we'd do better in Connecticut. Yeah, we'd do better in Massachusetts, but we couldn't make progress on the federal level. And of course, that all changed with the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which the senators behind me deserve so much credit for shepherding through a challenging institution. But at the end of the day, the credit really goes to all of you for doing the unimaginable, of taking your grief and molding it into change so that fewer Americans can go through the grief that you have experienced. So, as the senator said, and as I suspect you'll hear from every one of my colleagues, our effort will be redoubled. We derive strength from your strength. We are not letting this go until Sandy Hook doesn't happen again, till none of these photographs are reproduced years from now, that I don't have to approach my colleague Dina Titus in tears because there has been another mass shooting. We are dedicated to taking your strength and turning that into change. Thank you all. It's now my job to introduce Sam Schwarz, who, like way too many people, lost a cousin, lost a family member to gun violence in Parkland, Florida. Sam.
Thank you. My name is Sam Schwarz. Today I'm here to talk about the federal assault weapons ban, a bill that I have unfortunately become all too familiar with since my cousin Alex Schachter was murdered with one in 2018. But it was not just Alex who was murdered with one that day. Alex was one of 17 people who were killed on Valentine's Day at their desks at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. The gunman, who I will add obtained his weapon legally, simply walked into the school armed with an AR-15 and massacred 17 people. And that took 3.5 minutes. Another shooting in my home state of Florida, one of the worst in American history, Pulse nightclub. Here, the story is pretty much the exact same as Parkland. A lone gunman walked into a crowded room of people and opened fire. Here, the gunman shot 102 people and killed 49 of them, and that took 5 minutes. You don't even need me to tell you what kind of gun was used in Pulse because the number of deaths just gives it away. Only an assault weapon causes this much destruction in so little time. Yesterday, we held the 11th annual vigil for all victims of gun violence, and every year, about halfway through the ceremony, survivors in the audience are invited up, one by one, to hold up a picture of their loved one and say their name. This year, the line was so long that it wrapped around the entire building because the amount of people who have lost a loved one due to gun violence just keeps getting bigger. And it's because of Republican inaction on this issue. We are dealing here with a party that is beholden to the corporate gun lobby and has no interest whatsoever in changing. And yesterday, Republicans proved that again when Democratic leadership gave them the opportunity to vote on the assault weapons ban, to vote on Ethan's Law, and to vote on the Background Checks Expansion Act. To do the right thing and to put American lives over profit, and of course they objected to this. 3 hours later, I will add, there was another mass shooting, this time in Las Vegas. So then where does that leave us? Where does that leave my generation who have become very, very good at mapping out the best possible escape route into every new room that we enter? Well, we only have one option, which is to elect more Democrats to the House and to the Senate. so that Republicans cannot obstruct progress any longer, and we can finally begin to pass these laws, including the assault weapons ban, which is exactly what my generation will do in 2024. Gen Z will remember who fought for our rights to live and who fought for the gun lobby when we go to the polls. And so I think I speak for all people when I say thank you to Leader Schumer and to Senators Murphy and Blumenthal for your outstanding efforts yesterday and in general in this movement in trying to pass these bills yesterday to the Senate floor. It was incredible for us to see. And we say thank you, and we will remember it. Now I have the honor of introducing Congresswoman DeLauro, who is a staunch GVP champion and is probably the most stylish member of Congress. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam, and just hearing you and just feeling your passion and really your determination on this issue. I said a while ago, and this was after Parkland, that if, and I say this to members of Congress, if you don't want to follow our young people, get out of their way. Just get out of their way, because they are leading the charge for all of us. And so thank you so much for your words and your continued determination. I just want to say welcome to all, and I want to say a thank you to our senators, Senator Blumenthal, Senator Murphy, for the great work that they've done in the Senate and for their indefatigable continuing of never giving up in this area. And I also want to recognize Congressman Himes, Congressman Johanna Hayes. And of course to the family members, Kristen Song, Sam Schwarz, Judy Richardson. We are in awe of your strength, each and every one of you, to continue the fight every day. But that's true of everyone here. And I'm so grateful for the pictures because that's the story. That is, these are not faceless individuals. These are not people that are not, no, they are our sons, our daughters, our brothers, our sisters, our cousins, our aunts, our uncles. They are our family, and that's what should be remembered, who they are and the lives they led and the lives that were cut short because of this gun violence that we experience in this country. So all of your great work in supporting the reforms in preventing gun violence keeps our families safe. And we are facing violence in schools. I think it's so tragic that youngsters have to scope out which is the best escape route, or they have to leave with their hands raised high, you know, as they leave our school buildings, which are supposed to be safe havens for our youngsters, but in grocery stores, shopping malls, banks, local communities. 600 mass shootings this year, including yesterday in Las Vegas. And I sat with Dina Titus this morning, who was, and so just shaking her head, you know, in disbelief, but it's not disbelief. And she said to me, Rosa, she says, I know we'll stand and we'll deal with thoughts and with prayers. Well, thoughts and prayers are good. We all want to share those thoughts. We all pray. We all pray in our own way, but it is about this institution, which is an institution of action. It's action. That is what is necessary. Let's couple that with our thoughts and with our prayers. And I want to just say a thank you to Senator Blumenthal offering unanimous consent motion yesterday to provide immediate consideration of Ethan's law in the U.S. Senate. And as he pointed out, the Senate Republicans blocked this action. It's a simple bill. It talks about gun storage. It's not taking anybody's gun away from them. It's about safety and it's about health. You know, losing one child to accidental gun violence is too many, which is, I'm so proud to introduce Ethan's Law in the House. We have 205 co-sponsors, and that's because of the work of Kristen Song. She does that, going door to door, literally. And we have a discharge petition, which we have 204 members on, so we're going to keep it up. And as I said, this is a very simple piece of legislation. Safe storage of firearms to ensure that a child or someone who should not have access to lawfully to have a gun, that from keeping them from getting a gun that they do harm to themselves or to others. And you know Kristen and Mike's Song's story. Tragically lost their son Ethan 5 years ago. He was killed with an unsecured gun in his best friend's house. And Kristen and Mike's advocacy has been monumental in the fight to save lives from gun violence. And after Ethan's death, they fought and they advocated throughout Connecticut. They passed Ethan's law in Connecticut. And as Senator Murphy pointed out, there is progress. There is progress. We passed the bill in the Senate. Yes, not all that we wanted, but the bill was passed. But Ethan's law, when going door to door at the state legislature, that got the bill passed there. So it's common sense safety measure. And so, and now the fight is here at the Capitol to pass Ethan's law in the House of Representatives. Last Congress, we did just that as part of Protecting Our Kids Act. So we have done it. We will keep at it. And you know, and there has been a recent Connecticut incident on September 30th in Bridgeport. A 14-year-old youngster accidentally shot himself. There were 20 unsecured guns in the household. He has survived, but with serious brain damage. So you think about what the rest of his life is about. As members of Congress, it's our sacred duty to protect the American people, especially our children. There is no more noble cause that we fight for here, and we have failed. Doing nothing to prevent these tragedies is cowardly and it is shameful. We need to take action so that innocent children will not continue to die in our society. We all know what happened 11 years ago in Sandy Hook. Our hearts were broken. It was senseless and unthinkable. 26 beautiful souls on that cold December day. Our community is still traumatized. Our hearts ache for the parents, the grandparents, the sisters and the brothers and the friends, for the lives that were lost on what was one of the darkest days in Connecticut's history. So I just wanted to say we took that first step in the Senate. We have some legislation that is on the cusp, and we can keep fighting. You know, I see moms, dads, aunts, uncles, and so forth. You know, my mom taught me many, many things in my lifetime. She passed 6 years ago at the age of 103. But the two principles that remain with me day in and day out as I travel this journey in the House of Representatives, and that is never give up and don't take no for an answer. And that's what we should, I take that as the courage that I have to make the fight each and every day for what we believe in. And in this case, there is no more noble cause than to fight for those who have been lost and to help save those in the future. Thank you, and God bless all of you. Thank you for being here and for giving us strength. With that, it is my honor and my pleasure to introduce to you truly a force of nature and someone with deep conviction on this issue, as you all are, and that's Kristen Song.
Thank you so much. I had prepared other remarks for today, but I wanted to read you something that I wrote about 4 weeks after my son was killed. I saw a woman last year. Her eyes sparkled, her posture was relaxed, and her movements were deliberate and energetic. She smiled and laughed. She loved to tell anyone who would listen, "Seize the day." She begged for a third child. Her husband didn't understand. She wasn't finished bringing life into this world. The child arrived on a beautiful winter day. Her family was complete. She felt at peace. She said her heart grew 3 sizes that day. It overflowed with gratitude because she knew she was blessed. She was a confident mother and took her responsibilities seriously. She worked hard to make sure her 3 children felt loved and cherished. Her most treasured moments were when her family was together at dinner time, on vacation, or trapped on a long car ride. She loved the noise, but she also loved it when her house was quiet and her children were tucked into their bed. She had done her job. They were safe. Her children grew into teenagers and she fell more in love with them, even when she received phone calls like, "Mom, I'm okay, but I totaled the car." Or, "Mom, don't freak out, I broke my nose in 3 places." She loved it even when the school called and asked if her third child was planning on handing in any homework ever. She understood these were trials, rites of passages, surmountable, good learning lessons for her children. Like shoots from a healthy tree, her children branched off from her. She marveled at their personalities, their dreams, their kindness, and yes, their grumpiness. She promised them there was nothing this family couldn't get through together. I see a woman, her eyes are dull, her posture slumped, her movements by rote. She walks in a stupor, getting through the days but numb in heart, mind, and soul. Tears have replaced her smile. Her energy is depleted, and she wonders how she will get through the next half an hour, let alone the remainder of the day. The physical pain is so intense, she can barely breathe. What used to bring her pleasure and great joy has disappeared like smoke in a wind. Memories, terrifying reminders of what her life used to be. She no longer thinks about vacations, summer evenings under the stars, or Christmas mornings. All these pleasures have been sacrificed just to survive. Life is a roller coaster of emotions, ranging from disbelief that her life has been shattered into a million pieces, or panic attacks over what will happen to her other children. She doesn't sleep much, and when she does, her lost boy visits her at night, calling to her. She runs in circles like an agitated, caged animal, trying to get to him, but he slips from her hands and slowly fades away. A noise awakens her. She realizes she is sobbing. Why, God? Please tell me why, my beautiful boy. She would have happily traded places with him in an instant. She straddles two worlds, one with him, her lost son, and one with those who remain. She stretches her arms, but no longer can hold all three of her children at once anymore. She gets up every morning dreading another day without her son. She has failed as a mother. She sits with her coffee in the kitchen and contemplates suicide. Ah, that sounds lovely. No more pain. Her older son grabs her hand and says, I will not survive if I lose another member of this family. How did he know? Was I so obvious? She accepts that she has no choice but to live. She who was once a vibrant, happy, optimistic, warm, loving woman withdraws to protect what's left of her emotional stability. Her isolation affects those she loves most, her delights, her husband, and her children. As she deals with her heartache, she stands knee-deep in theirs. What's so heartbreaking is that Ethan's death was 100% preventable. If that gun owner had taken seconds, just seconds, to lock up his 3 handguns, my son would be alive today. I would not be serving a life sentence, and he would not be serving a death sentence. I wanted to introduce Congresswoman Hayes, who has held my hand as I've sobbed. It is not easy to sit with a broken mother, and I really appreciate all of the senators and representatives who run towards us and not away from us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am running out of things to say at gatherings like this. Yesterday, yet another shooting. My colleagues talked about speaking with Representative Titus on the floor today. Another member of the Nevada delegation, Congressman Horsford, left the floor yesterday and took the first plane back to Las Vegas because his son was on campus and texting him. This is not normal. Nothing about this is normal. Being killed with an assault type weapon at a bowling alley, a grocery store, a place of worship, an elementary school, it's just not normal. I can tell you the young people from Sandy Hook left the room, and they're around 17. On the day that Sandy Hook, actually the days after, I was a classroom teacher, and my students were the same age as these young people. And the question they asked me has been so piercing over the last decade. Miss, why are the adults allowing this to happen? I didn't have an answer for them in that moment. And I say that because people often talk about this issue as we have to make it, it's not political, it's not partisan. It is absolutely political because we have the ability as legislators and lawmakers to make laws that keep people safe. It is absolutely political. So I appreciate Sam, once again, young people, who said, we have to hold our Republican colleagues accountable because we have the ability to do this. It is not the full Congress. And we need to be crystal clear about what that means and what that looks like. We need to pass universal background checks. We need to, we have the ability to do this. We know that an assault weapons ban will save lives. I thought in my naive state as a civilian that the slaughter of innocent children would be the breaking point for this nation. And now the fact that our news stations know how to cover a mass shooting, that there is a blueprint for what that looks like, that we see it happen so often that before I can get out one statement, another shooting has occurred, that we are literally counting the names and the faces and the stories of the families that are impacted and the survivors who are left behind. This is not normal, and we cannot normalize it. I ran for Congress, not even thinking about this as a political issue, but I can tell you when there were whispers about arming teachers in schools, that terrified me. More guns is not the answer. So I feel privileged even to stand amongst you. I am in awe of your strength. I just know that your loved ones are so incredibly proud of your fortitude and your resilience and the fact that you will never let anyone forget what happened, and you will do everything in your power to make sure that it happens to no one else. And I commit to you. And I'm so fortunate to be a part of a delegation where we lock arms and lean in on this issue. You know, Senator Murphy, who has been a champion on this issue, Senator Blumenthal, my House colleagues, we will do everything that we can to make sure that we are moving in the right direction. And I am so sorry at the slow progress of this work, but I hope you recognize that your work is not in vain. Those young people, I was listening to them speak last night. Whether they know it or not, they had a place in my heart before I ever knew who they were. I held their story close to me before I ever saw their faces. So now to see them answering the question for themselves, why won't the adults do something about this? Just gives me so much humility, and I am humbled by their strength. So it is not lost on me, it is not lost on us, and we will stand with you in this effort. Now I'd like to introduce Judy Richardson, the mother of Darian Richardson, whose life was taken by gun violence in Maine in 2010.
Thank you. I don't know why I'm up there without tissues, thanks. But yes, I'm Judy Richardson. My husband is here with me, and that's a picture of our daughter, Darian. Our daughter, 25-year-old, vibrant, beautiful daughter. She was in her own home, in her own bed. Intruders came into her house, January 8th, 2010. And opened fire into her bedroom. She was shot in the hand as she sat up to sort of stop the bullet, right? She rolled over and then was shot again in her leg. It entered by her knee and traveled to her hip, where it was going to remain. She didn't die that night. She was in the hospital almost 3 weeks. We pulled in, we huddled in as a family. We thought our love was going to save her. We're going to love her better. Ultimately, she died on February 28th as a direct result of her gunshot injuries. Shortly after she was shot, there was another young man shot in Portland. So after the death of our daughter and the police recovered the bullet from her, they matched it to another homicide, and they called us in. We went into a big meeting in the police department, and we're told that we have good news and bad news for you. We have the gun, but we still don't know where it came from. They matched. There was another shooting in February, and unrelated. There was roommates that fought. One guy pulled out a gun, shot his roommate, and ran off, hid the gun. The police recovered that gun, and they connected it with ballistics to Darien. But what they found out was they went to where he purchased it. They knew the manufacturer, they knew where it was purchased. Then because of the background check, they found out who originally bought the gun retail. But when they went to that man, he said, "Oh, I don't know. I sold it at a gun show as a private sale, and I don't remember. I didn't keep a record. I don't know who I sold it to. I don't even know what day I sold it." And so there it ends. This is another reason, another example of why we need background checks. There's nothing we can do. There's nothing you could. That man, technically, with no law in Maine for a background check, private sale, he did not have to. He did anything illegal, and they can't get any more information out of him. So we've been fighting for background checks for quite a long time. Reducing gun violence is multifaceted, but at the top of the list is closing this background check loophole. We have two systems currently. If you're a federally licensed dealer, you have to conduct, and the people that buy have to pass the background check. But if people know that they can't pass a background check, what do? They go to private sales. Those private sales end up on that black market. There's no black market manufacturing guns. It's the private sellers selling them into the system. We must hold private sellers to the same standard as the federal ones. Background checks are the backbone of any comprehensive gun violence policy. Subsequent laws like waiting periods are ineffective because they can just buy the gun privately. Gun violence is now a public health and safety epidemic. Gun rights and gun violence prevention are not mutually exclusive. I thank everyone, all my fellow survivors, and everyone that does fight on this issue, but we're not going to take no. I stand with everybody, and I just hope it's this time. What's it going to take, right? We say that, we always have these little slogans we keep saying, time is now, let's end it, let's just stop, it's enough is enough. We've been saying that for 14 years. So we really have to make it happen. All of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
If there are any questions, we'd be happy to take them. And if not, again, our thanks to all of you. Really means so much that you're here. And we're going to get it done. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your efforts. We're going to keep going. We will indeed, yes.